You're such an asshole.
Hello, children. I'm gonna bang out a couple videos here before the Christmas days are upon us. Let's do an anonymous Clarey test on American World War I ace of aces, Eddie Rickenbacker. It's not Bacher. It's not spelled German. It's Backer. And his very eventful life, I sense he's probably going to get a 0, if not negative score. All right, so let's go to Eddie Rickenbacker. I'm sure it's Rickenbacker. I know. Let's go ahead and click here. Wikipedia probably made him. Oh, he was a transsexual. Born 1890, died 1973, 80, how can I keep it? 83 years old. American fighter pilot, World War I, and Medal of Honor recipient. With 26 aerial victories, he was the most successful, most decorated United States flying ace of the war. He was also a race car driver, an automobile designer, and longtime head of Eastern Airlines. Something no leftist could ever possibly do in their life. Look at him. He's smiling. He's happy. Probably got laid. Oh, well. Born Edward Rickenbacker in Columbus, Ohio, he was the third of 8 children born to German-speaking Swiss immigrants, Leslie and Wilhelm Rickenbacker. Yep, they spelled it the German way. Later in life, he changed the spelling of his name to Rickenbacker and adopted a middle name, Vernon. His father worked for breweries and street paving crews. His mother took in laundry to supplement the family income. He did not come from wealth. They borrowed money, boo-doo-boo, house like running water, indoor plumbing and electricity. Oh, yeah, you kids got it so tough, man. You didn't get the latest iPhone. This is like a real American. The pussies you guys are. I need the money. Student loan bailout and stimmy checks. The AI jobs are going to take everything, so I want to be the world's biggest vagina. Andrew Yang, bigger than him. That's a pretty big vagina. I want UBI. Then you should have rich Asian parents. This is where Ed, as he was called by his parents, spent his childhood. Growing up, Rickenbacker worked before and after school. What? What's that? He helped in the garden where the family grew potatoes, cabbages, and turnips, cared for the family's goats and chickens and pigs, earned money to delivering paper, setting up pins at a bowling alley, selling scavenged goods. God, I don't want to, I'm going to say you read through the first 2 paragraphs of Eddie Rickenbacker's childhood and you tell me how bad you got it. They misgendered me. Oh, God. Call the National Guard. Gave most of his earning moms, but spent some on Bull Durham tobacco, a habit he picked up from his older brother, Bill. As a child, Rickenbacker was accident prone, taught an oncoming horse. Brother rescued him from a coal car twice. He once ran back in his burning school building to retrieve his coat and nearly paid for it with his life. 60 years later, when producing his autobiography, he found significance in those close calls. He came to believe that God had repeatedly saved him for a higher purpose. Oh, look at all these awards he's got. Had an artistic side, enjoyed painting watercolors of animals, flowers, and scenery. That'd be cool on one of Rickenbacker's paintings. I don't know if you find them for sale. He tried to design a perpetual motion machine, but his father berated him for wasting time on an invention with no purpose. He was also sort of the leader of the Horsehead gang with whom he smoked, played hooky, and broke street lamps. With the Horsehead gang, he constructed push carts that were a precursor to soapbox derby. Okay, career beginnings. His dad died when he was 14. All right, so he did not come from wealth. Career beginnings, though his older sibling, Rickenbacker felt the responsibility to replace his father, lost income, and dropped out in 7th grade, worked full time. Worked 8 different jobs during the next 2 years. He took an engineering course at the International Correspondence School. Chief engineer Lee Freyer took Rickenbacker under his wing, giving him more responsibility in the workshop. 2 months later, when it came time to compete in the 1906 Vanderbilt Cup race, Freyer bought brought Rickenbacker to New York as a riding mechanic. After 2 practice runs, their engine overheated and they failed to get into the starting line for the qualifying run. Rickenbacker followed his mentor to the Columbus Buggy Company, chief testing engineer. This is before you had to get degrees. You could just go do it. Later, that Firestone sent Rickenbacker, Texas, to figure out why the new Fair design engines were overheating. Rickenbacker solved the problem and then stayed on to head up Columbus Buggy Dallas Agency. 18, he was a chief engineer, experimenter, demonstrator, mechanic, and salesman. And all you 18-year-olds, I need to live at home with my parents. I think I'm just going to do that. Anytime I get somebody whining or complaining on the internet, I run them. Yeah, look up Eddie Rickenbacker. Read what he did up to the age of 18, from like 14 to 18. Okay, so then this is a lengthy thing. We'll be here for. He was in automobile racing. In England, Rickenbacker worked on the Sunbeam. I'm just skipping ahead right before World War I. No, he was back in the United States. Has experience as a suspected spy, and they thought he was a German spy. He officially changed the spelling of his name from Rickenbacker to Rickenbacker. A few years later, he settled on the middle name Vernon after the brother of his boyhood crush, Blanche Calhoun. Well, who is Blanche Calhoun? What's Blanche Calhoun look like? Blanche Calhoun. Good old Blanche. Blanche Calhoun. Images. Well, these are all old ladies. Obviously, you can imagine a name like Blanche. Wonder what Blanche looked like back in the day. Okay, pre-U.S. entry. While in England, Rickenbacker watched Royal Flying Corps airplanes over the Thames from the Brooklyn's Aerodrome. Began to consider a role in aviation if the United States entered the European War. The month before, while he had been in Los Angeles, Rickenbacker had 2 chance encounters with aviator Glenn Martin, founder of Glenn L. Martin Company, and more recently, Wright Martin Craft, gave Rickenbacker his first ride aloft. Next, Major Townsend F. Dodd was stranded with his plane in the field, and Rickenbacker diagnosed a magneto problem because he didn't have a pussy degree in the liberal arts. Dodd later became a General John J. Pershing's aviation officer and an important contact in Rickenbacker's attempt to join air combat back in the United States. After the revelation of the Zimmerman telegram, Rickenbacker shared his idea for an aero squadron composed of race car drivers and mechanics with the New York Times reporter. Word practically put a stop to racing, and we have a training that our country would need in a time of war. We experts in judging speed and in motor knowledge. He's not wrong. Flight training. In late May of 1917, a week before he was to race to Cincinnati, Nick Rickenbacker was invited to sail to England with General John J. Pershing. By mid-June, he was in France, where he enlisted in the United States Infantry. He was assigned to drive Army officials between Paris and AEF headquarters in Chaumont. There will upset all the French people. Yeah, Chaumont. Is that Claremont, Booker? Yes, sir. Then why the hell didn't you say so? That's 30 miles beyond their lines. And on to various points of the Western Front. He earned the rank of Sergeant First Class, but never drove for General Pershing. Rather, he mostly drove Major Dodd. Another chance encounter with Captain James Millen. They lived during 3 months, took the time for war to continue his flight training, standing in back of lectures, taking up airplanes of his own practice. I'm just skipping ahead. In February, March, Lieutenant, he's an officer now, and the officers of the nascent First Pursuit Group completed advanced training at Villeneuve-les Vertus Aerodrome. American pronouncing French. He can't pronounce French at all. He couldn't save his life. There he came under the tutelage French flying Major Raoul Loufberry. With regards to flying, Rickenbacker said, "All I learned from Loufberry." Loufberry took Rickenbacker and Douglas Campbell on the first patrol before their Newport 28s were outfitted with machine guns. Rickenbacker earned the respect of other flyers who called him Rick. Squadrons, boobity boo, bobbity ba. Okay, early combat. Rickenbacker was out of the house. Okay, so 6th victory. So he starts shooting a ton of things down. I'm not going to go through because he shot down Lord knows how many. 26 was it? Then he becomes the commander of the 94th Aero Squadron. How many he's got here? Good Lord. 26. War hero, Waldorf Astoria, Secretary of War Newton Baker, capitalized business. He told the Rickenbacker Motor Company, then Florida Air. So he just started doing business. Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He purchased it. By this time, he's already very successful. He purchased it for $700,000 in 1927. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money, but y'all kept voting Democrat to make that a lot of money go. $700,000 get your average house now. Oh, you kids. General Motors, Eastern Airlines, comic strips. Rickenbacker scripted the popular Sunday comic strip Ace Drummond from 1935-1940. Okay, so he guys a little art. World War II. This is all before World War II he's doing that. Officially left the American First Organization, but when he was inspired by Hans Resistance in the Luftwaffe. Adrift at sea. 1943 mission to God Almighty. Still determining Rickenbacker suggested a fact-finding mission to the Soviet Union to provide the Soviets with technical assistance with their American aircraft. To get approval for this trip, Rickenbacker approached Soviet diplomats rather than President Roosevelt by trading favors with the Soviet ambassador. And with Stimson's help, he secured passage. Okay, so this guy, just personal, like, good Lord, post-war. Eastern was the most profitable airline of post-war era. 1950, Eastern Airlines fortunes declined. Rickenbacker was forced out of his position in 1959. At age 73, Rickenbacker also resigned as chairman of the board of directors. Well known as speaker, vision. So he just worked until he died. Wow. Personal life. And it goes on and on. It's just a hell of a man. So he did come from wealth. He didn't major in stupid shit. Does he have real world working experience? Nothing but. What did he do? He worked until he was dead. I mean, a classic, a real American hero. Would I want to have a beer with him? Yes, and I would shut the fuck up and hinge on every word. Should he ran for office? Yes, that's the type of man or woman. Well, he's not a woman, he's a man, but the type of person you want running for office. I mean, just compare this. Not even the rest of just from 14 to 18. Compare that to every little pansy ass child in America, right? Pansy ass adult right now. So there you go. Very interesting, man. No super chat. Oh, we got one. Drew, $5. I agree with your assessment of people with guns in America. I saw a lot of really dumb and idiotic behavior at the range today. Guns are not toy. As I've said, people might be wondering, well, wait, what's Cappy's position on gun? I thought you're pro-gun. I am pro-gun, very pro-gun. What I'm realizing though is like, cars, or what was the cars, drugs? What was the one thing where I was like, divorce, that's what marriage. The average American isn't mature enough and responsible enough to handle a marriage. And guns, I wonder about the same thing. Back in the day, there were marksmanship clubs in high schools. Kids would take their guns to school. And kids are not responsible enough to do that anymore because we do not have parents that discipline them or train them. That was back in Rickenbacker's day. You could rely on young adults, older boys and girls, not even full-grown adults, to be more mature than your average 35-year-old today. And yeah, you go to the gun range. I can't imagine what you saw at the gun range. I'm not a big safety bunny, but I follow my procedure. I'm not like looking for other people's mistakes. I'm like, I don't want to just accidentally shoot someone, let alone myself. Heinrich Dorfman, what side were you on, Heinrich, in World War I? Heinrich, Herr Dorfman. It's a ticking time bomb here. What are you over? You're over in the United States. You got dollars, not euros. It will look. Whatever happens, happens. All right. We'll see you guys later. Toodles.